Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm very excited to have Danny Cobbin with me today. Danny is a husband, father, life coach, and Super Coach Academy graduate. Danny sees coaching not as a mastery of life, but as an exploration of life's possibilities. He loves working with people who want to see what's possible. In addition to coaching, Danny is also an inspirational speaker and interviewer. You can check out his shows on his YouTube channel at Danny Cobbin or on Instagram at One Coaching. Welcome, Danny, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Dale, thank you so much for having me. I'm in awe of what you have going here and all the things you got moving along.
Oh, you're so sweet. So I always like to start off by asking you how you came across the principles and how they impacted you. What did you hear that was different than anything else you'd heard before?
I'm actually rather new to the principles, to be honest with you. Less than a year under my belt with this. Before, it was last year, I was big into personal development. I had to get it right. I needed to do better, be more, the same thing that we all go through whenever we're trying to get to that next level, whatever that is. And 2 years ago, I was at an event and a guy was like talking to me about a platform called Mind Valley, which Michael Neal is a part of. And I paid no attention to the guy. And the next year at the same event, he's like, man, my life has changed. And you hear that sometimes and you're like, oh, whatever. But I heard it. And when I heard it, I was like, all right, let me go check out this platform. And I checked out the platform. I didn't even invest in Michael Neal. I was watching his YouTube videos. There's something about it that just was like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I want to learn to coach this. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of the year, I had signed up for Super Coach Academy, went to Super Coach Academy, and it was day 2 of Super Coach Academy. And I was like, this isn't for coaching. This is for me. This is something that I need for myself. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is after that first week of Super Coach Academy, we were live. That's the last thing I think that you could do live really. And I went home, and before I was talking to my wife about a type of planning that I wanted to start coaching people on. I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be this type of planning coach. And I had walked her through everything. I went for this thing. And a week later, that next weekend, she's telling me about her plan. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. And she's like, you talked to me last weekend about this. I was like, I don't get it. I don't know what you're talking about. It felt like a year had passed in that time span of that week that I was gone. And I was hooked.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Just to go back to something you said, this is what I love about this understanding. There is no hierarchy. There is no, somebody's been in it for longer, so therefore they're more qualified or they've seen more. As Sid said, it's just one thought away. I mean, anybody can see anything in a moment. And people that sometimes have been around it for years don't get the clarity that somebody's completely new to it gets. So I love that. It's not sort of linear time or things like that. So so you were hooked and you were in it. So how did it, I know that you have 2 young children, don't you? Very young, lovely twins, a boy and a girl. How old are they now?
They are 2. They turned 2 in September.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh. So how did it impact your parenting? Because I know you also have older kids. So how do you think it showed up in your parenting?
I'm happy you asked that, because it was probably 2 or 3 days ago, me and my wife were talking about. She's like, I'm glad you get an experience of parenting in like where you're actually involved, because I'm a stay-at-home dad. That's the other thing that I do. And before I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I wasn't there in the way that I could have been. Her mom lives in a different state, so it's one of those, like, we would fly back and forth. We have a better relationship now, but it was strained and I really didn't get to see her. And you asked the question of how has it changed? Me and my wife, she cried because she's like, I can't believe how much you appreciate being a parent. Um, I called my daughter a terrorist when she was like super young because she would wake up in the middle of the night, start crying, and nobody wanted to go check on her because we would be up all night. So I was like, she's a terrorist. And one day it just dawned on me, like, my thinking that she was a terrorist was the reason why everything she was doing felt so out of place. And it wasn't until like I put that to the side, I can vividly remember putting that to the side saying, oh, wow, like she's actually just trying to let me know what's going on. And it sparked that, hey, they're just as whole as every other human being. Everything that they have is inside of them, and it's just a process of unfolding. Mm-hmm. And if I, as a parent, stop trying to say, you got to do this, you don't need to do that, and I allow them to just express and me to do my best job at listening, mm-hmm. Okay, they have an opportunity to grow up in a way that a lot of children, a lot of people, a lot of adults never got that opportunity to do. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'm so thankful for the principles when it comes to parenting because of the separation between 16 and these 2-year-olds and what I'm seeing right now on a day in and day out basis.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And I mean, it's, I mean, I know with my own children, my relationship has God, it's improved so much. We've always had a great relationship, but the principles just, it gives you a foundation that is unshakable when in all relationships. So how is your it's your 16-year-old is a daughter. How is she experiencing? Is she seeing something different in you as well?
Oh. So she essentially comes down twice a year. She just moved a little bit closer, so now I see a little bit more frequently. And for the last 2 years, it was longer than that, but we'll say just the last 2 years, every time she would come down, it would be like, here's a book you should read. Here is what I'm learning. Here are the steps. This is what you should know. This last time she came down, she was like, as she was leaving, like, because I ask her, when she gets here, I'm like, hey, what is it that you want to do together? And a lot of times it's like, I don't know. And then when she leaves, I'm like, hey, how's the time together? And this last time she's like, I could tell something's different in you. And it's like, what do you mean? She's like, every other time I come down here, you're trying to tell me what to do. And this time you were just like, and she's like, I loved it. And what was cool for me is at 16, I'm like, well, I only get 4 more like official chances. Like, I'm gonna see her a few more times, but 4 more official chances to see her. And I'm like, man, like, I don't want to squander those chances. I don't want to, but I know that what happens whenever we're together is what naturally is supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. And it is that base that you speak of, like, it's changed my world because it's not what to do. It's never told me what to do. It doesn't say, hey, go pick up your daughter, go have lunch with her, it doesn't tell me that. But it tells me that my experience and where I'm feeling and how I'm feeling, it just truly it amplifies my ability to be present with her.
Yeah. It's so, I love what you're pointing to because it's so true. I think what this understanding, or rather going back a bit, how a lot of us were raised, and how we raised our children was, to keep telling them what we thought was best for them. And we don't realize that inadvertently, when we do that, we're actually telling them not to listen to their own wisdom. We're saying our wisdom knows better than your wisdom. And we end up sort of damaging that connection they have with their own innate wisdom, that common sense, that gut feeling, that intuition, whatever name you want to give it. But when we're always telling them to ignore that and follow what advice we're telling them, we're damaging that. So I love that your daughter, the 16-year-old daughter, is able to see while she's still young enough go, oh no, I've got it inside me too. My dad sees it in me. I love that.
What's interesting, Dale, is I had a conversation with one of my fellow Super Coach Academy graduates while she was down. And I was like, she kind of gets this. She already gets this. Like, I don't even need to talk to her about this. How crazy is it that, like, it almost seems like people underneath 18 already understand this? And he was like, oh, but what's interesting is if you didn't point this out to her, she would have lost it along the way.
Mm.
Like, somewhere along the way, she would have felt like, no, it's whatever's out there is what's influencing what's going on in here. And me just reiterating and me letting her know that, hey, you know the perfect direction for your life.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was nothing, but it's huge. And Dale, I know a little bit about your story, and it's the same. Like, how long did it take for you to like kind of come out of that like conditioning of being a child? It took me till I was 30.
Took me until I was 50 at least. Exactly. If we get this, but I'm curious, did your daughter just see the change in you, or did you actually share some of the principles? Because I know my kids did not want to hear about it, but they see the change.
So it was, did I share the principles? No, I didn't share the principles with her because I felt like she wouldn't, like, not that she wouldn't have understood it, but it just didn't seem relevant. What seemed relevant was for me to point to her to let her know that the way life works is like you already know what to do. There's a feel, there's a tangibleness to it. And when you feel that tangibleness or whatever, go with that feeling. Don't go with, oh, my friends told me to do it, or that other person over there told me to do it. And I think what it was I was Tony Robbins all the way. And so what it was like, do this, do this. You got to get your state right. You got to be in. And she is an introvert that loves being on the internet. She does role play, which is essentially building stories with someone. And like I got to thinking about it, like I don't need to have her read more books. She's writing books essentially because she's telling me about the different levels, right? Like there's introductory level, and then she's like, I'm at advanced lit. That's what they call it. It's just like the most advanced level where essentially we're writing novels to each other. And I'm like, oh, so like whatever it is you want to do, you're already doing it in a playful way.
Yeah.
And I was so in my head about this is what you need to learn that I wasn't even noticing that she was already learning it.
Yeah. I have two sons now. They're 23 and 27. But when they would play video games, I would because I always think, you've got to go into your children's world rather than expect them to come into yours. So I'd sort of go and hang out in their rooms and watch them play. And I thought to myself at one point, I thought, oh my God, this is like chess for this generation. They have to think of multiple levels and multiple moves ahead of time. And we only just, we put this label on that it's just video games. But there's strategy, there's planning, there's things in it that we that are actually great for their development and their skills if we open our minds to see it that way, not judge it.
Yeah, I'm a gamer myself,
Yeah.
and I stopped gaming in my 20s, like 25 to 30-ish. I was like, no, that's not what adults do. They don't game. And as I got older and then seeing my kids, like they pick up a phone. And I remember when it was just pushing, like they were just pushing the screen. And then I remember when my daughter realized, oh, if I touch the screen, the movie's going to stop. Then, like, now she knows how to do all kinds. She's 2. But like, like, she's learning literally what it took me like years to learn by just like flicking it. Like, she's just playing a game. And even though it's not a strategy game like we're talking about, it is like a game all the same.
Yeah.
And the level of coordination and accuracy, mental development, like you're saying, that goes with games, that's a population, honestly, as a coach, I'm very interested in working with because I feel like there's a lot of skills and talent that we're putting into video games, and those specific people are like, well, we're not really valuable to society because all we want to do is be on a video game. And I'm not sure that's completely true.
Yeah, I love that. It's like it's to just encourage somebody where their inclination goes, where their enthusiasm goes, where their creativity goes, and just see, we what happens in that. So I want to ask you. I know you mentioned when we talked before. You mentioned that you suffered from dyslexia as a child, and so did I, and so did my one of my sons, not the other one, and so many of my family members, my brother, my nieces and nephews. So it's really prevalent in my family. So I just want you to talk a little bit about what that experience was for you, and how you see it now through the lens of the principles.
Hmm. You know, I I experienced yesterday, I was wondering if my thought process, okay, me and you, Dale, were in a class together. We turned in a project, and on my project, that one of the thoughts that came to my mind is the reason why nobody understands what I'm saying is because my thoughts are jumbled. That was the first thing that I thought. And I was walking around the neighborhood with my kids, and I like was digging into that thought. And I got to a point where my head started hurting. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're looking for a new thought, not the same thought. And I dropped it. I said, let's go watch a movie, kids.
Oh, I love that.
I am not my dyslexia. I was so convinced that I was. Like, fourth grade is essentially when I kind of got diagnosed with it. And it went along with me transitioning from an inner city school of Dallas, Texas, to a suburban school. So when I moved to the suburban school, we were a year behind. They were talking about cursive. I was like, what is cursive? I've never heard of that before. Um, and so like because of that, they put me in a different class, like CMC. Like I was in the normal class, but anytime it came to reading, they would send me to a different class. And I didn't see anything wrong with it in elementary school, middle school. Like I kind of clued in, was like, what is this about? Like I don't understand. And then high school is when it really started to impact me. I was in ninth grade and wanted to be an AP math. I wanted to be a math teacher. That's what I wanted to do. And the school came back with, well, you're underdeveloped in reading. We don't know if you're going to be able to read the word problems. If you can't read the problems, how are you going to get the questions right? In my child brain, I was like, I don't see that as a problem because like math is math, like words are not. But the school saw it a different way. And I took that with me through my 20s. I can't learn. I can't do anything. If I'm not good enough to get into this, then why would I be good enough to get into anything else? And it was with me. I didn't start reading again until I was 28, 29 years old. But at 28 or 29 years old, I was like, well, readers are leaders. I heard that somewhere. And for some reason I believed it. And so I started taking the time to read books. I could remember the whole year reading books and not knowing what they were saying. Like I didn't know. Like I was getting through. I was like, "Hey, I read a book. I don't know what it said." And I read a book on how to read a book.
Oh my God.
I like. I vividly like. I didn't get through the whole book because it got kind of weird at the end. But I read enough of it to realize that, oh, I can learn to read. I just think that I can't. And so I'm learning to read, and then I get to a point where I'm reading a book a day, or no, a book a week, sorry, a book a week. And I get to Super Coach Academy at the beginning of the year, and I start reading books. I'm like, I don't need to read another book in my life if I don't have to. And
Yeah.
now, like, I had never read a novel ever. I'm reading my first novel right now. It's like a 600-page book. In my brain, I could never put pictures together. Like, it never came together where, like, they would describe something and I would see what they're talking about. I see it now.
Mhm.
And it wasn't from me forcing like myself to understand what was on the page. So yes, there comes a reading comprehension. I had to learn that. But the principles let me know that, hey, I don't have to read, but I want to read. It's fun. And now that I know that it's fun to read, I'm not so caught up with, oh, what is that word? How does that, did I read that right? And
Mhm.
so it's a thing. Yeah, like yesterday, I dealt with it. Like it was weighing on me. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's not how the universe works.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but how mine shows up really like unbelievably is my spelling. And I'm an avid reader. And they say if you're an avid reader, you're a great speller. Well, it doesn't matter how many times I see a word, I can still spell it wrong. And spell check won't even catch it because it's so jumbled. They're just like, I have to call people. I have to call my boyfriend and like, how do you spell this? How do you spell that? Because I can't even start off with the right first letter. That's how bad it can get. My brain tends to go to where the most prominent sound comes from, and that tends to be what I write down first. So anyway, it's crazy, but it's so it is so wonderful when you I mean, with my son, I would tell him all the incredible famous people that had been dyslexic. So he had pretty high self-esteem. He thought he was we used to call him gifted. So and he is actually, but with dyslexia. But how what would you say now then? I mean, you don't know your daughter, 16-year-old daughter, she doesn't have it? Or
So I have a 16-year-old daughter, and then I have a 14-year-old son.
mhm.
And it would seem to me that it runs on the male side of my family.
Okay.
So like my daughter and my son, like I'm not saying that he will have problems, but I can tell that we're gonna have to invest more time
Yeah.
in that direction for him. Because the women on my side of the family, they're talkers. So like they do everything well. It's interesting. but but he came down when he was 8 to live with me and Courtney for a semester. Courtney's my wife. And what I knew about myself at that point was I just didn't spend enough time in it because I thought that like, oh, I'm dyslexic. I don't have to do anything. Like it's just that's what it is. And we forced him to sit down and study. The first test we got back was a 0. I was like, I didn't know you could make zeros on a spelling test.
Mhm.
And it was exactly like my stuff was. It was backwards letters. It was all kinds of jumbles and stuff like that. And over the course of those months, he got to a point where he had basically caught up with the other kids. He was making 80s, 90s, and 100. He made 100 on a spelling test. And
Wow.
what it was like for us was he's so young that whatever we feed them with at that age, like they're gonna accept. And if we say you're dyslexic, there's nothing you can do about it, they're gonna accept that. But
Mhm.
if we tell them like you said, if we tell them like, hey, you're dyslexic, but there's the world of possibility that's open to you, they're gonna seek out that world of possibility.
There's a lot of great artists, very creative. So there are some wonderful aspects of it. So I want to know a bit more about. I know you interview a lot of people on your podcast, and you do these was it Monday motivation, Wow Wednesdays, and Freedom Fridays. So I want to hear a little bit about what those because those are also you have for your clients and anybody else that wants to listen and check in with you. So tell me a little bit about those.
Those are my like passion projects. I think I will do that regardless of anything else I ever do. Because Monday motivation, e- every Monday, when I used to work at UPS, I was a UPS driver for 15 years before becoming a stay-at-home dad and a coach. Mondays were rough for everybody, whether it was the UPS driver or the person we were delivering to. But what was interesting was I could always be like, it's Monday, and the person would be like, oh yeah, man, yeah, it's Monday. It's all right, yeah. And I took that with me, and Mondays became my favorite day of the week, better than Friday in some ways. because I knew it didn't matter what I did. I could walk in the door, not have the right package, and the person would be like, "Oh, it's all right. It's Monday." I'm still trying to get going too. It'd be 5 o'clock. People are still like, "It's Monday. It's all right." And so, like, Mondays, I really, really just enjoy getting on, allowing people to comment on what they saw the weekend, but also just opening it up to let people know. Give yourself grace, give the person in front of you grace because it's Monday.
Mhm.
Then Wednesday is something that I've learned throughout the week. Um, and it's always shifting, whatever that is. But it's another chance for us all to just kind of sort of check in. And then Friday is Freedom Friday. And for some reason, every Friday, like on Thursday, I think it's going to be something. And on Friday, it's something completely different. You know, I walk in, I'm like, okay, what is freedom today? And freedom just looks completely different. I don't know what it is about waking up on a Friday. I'm sure you know what it's like. You wake up on Friday and you're like, it's Friday. We made it.
Oh no, no, I work all weekend, so I wish I didn't get. Wish I had a day where I just thought, oh, okay, my week has ended. It they just roll into each other. So that's okay. It's okay. There's a lot of need for coaching right now. I'm feeling a lot of people, um, are going, through some. I mean, not everybody. A lot of people are experiencing this dramatic change we're all going through with the COVID as an opportunity to reset and recalibrate and look at life in a completely different way. And then there are other people that are still finding it challenging. I would say mostly it's the loneliness I'm hearing, the disconnection that people are going through. So what are you? I know you referenced it the other day when we were doing our projects, and you were talking about COVID and what you've seen this year. What's your big takeaway from COVID?
My big takeaway from COVID is the new normal is found in the old normal. Um, if you think about any normal that you've ever had over the course of your life, how did you find it? And it wasn't, oh, I gotta change up some things. Maybe it was, maybe you forced yourself into it, but it's kind of like how you said your week is. You just kind of roll right into it. You kind of never realize that, oh, I'm doing something different.
Mhm.
And me and my family, like, oh, so thankful for three Ps, especially at this specific time in the world, because the things that we thought were gonna be problems weren't the problems at all. My wife had to stay home, and the first thing that happened was they started firing people at her job. They were like, anybody that has been on probation, we're gonna have to let you go. And she was kind of like, oh, what if they come after my job? It's like, well, they're letting the people go that they already knew they were probably gonna let go anyway. Like, in some ways, you should be thankful. And she like thought about that. Like, when you first say, hey, you should be thankful that abo- it looks kind of weird. But she saw that and she settled down a little bit. And then everything after that just kind of rolled into place. Like, we found her office. The kids ended up leaving her alone. It took a couple weeks, but like they were like, all right, well, she's clearly not coming out. And so just things just started shifting.
Mm.
COVID has been interesting.
It has. I call it this sort of great 3P experiment. It's almost like, let's just take all the outside stuff off people and let everybody see what they've already got inside them. We're going to take away their cars, their fancy clothes, the restaurants, the jobs, the money, and just see. And it's amazing how many people are going, oh my God. I mean, I'm not diminishing by any means the suffering, is some horrendous suffering. But I also think it has been a great opportunity to really recalibrate and go, what's important in life. And I think as everybody sees, it's our relationship, our capacity to love and connect and be with each other.
That's it right there. That was it. That that f- that found like finding that passion. It was there in our family. Um, but then to be forced into the situation together, and what I was reading a lot at the time was like, I don't know how to get along with my wife. Like that's just what a lot of people were saying to me. Like I don't know how to get along with my husband. Like my kids are getting on my nerves. And we went through that for a small chunk of time. But we didn't focus on that.
Mm.
And so like COVID, like you said, like it has done some detrimental things. But for me and my family, it's been a blessing in our relationships.
So we're coming to the end of our time together, but I just want to give you an opportunity to just wrap it up and just share what you would love, something that you'd love our listeners to hear and take with them for at least for the next week or so.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of like when talking about the dyslexia, talking about our kids, talking about yesterday for me, we don't know what's gonna happen. In fact, like I feel like that's what we do best is go into a situation not knowing what's up and what's down, and then coming out on the other side and being able to do amazing things with it. Like you spoke about dyslexia and being able to think outside of the box. I'm so blessed to have dyslexia for that reason. I feel like being the thinking outside of the box is what helps me to be a great coach. And we just don't know what gift or what whatever we have, it all works for us, whether we know it or not.
It is. It's all working for us. Wisdom has our back, whether we can see it in the moment or not. But it is all for our highest good. So that's a beautiful note to end on. Well, thank you so much. It's so lovely spending this time with you, and I will see you again shortly.
Well, Dale, first, thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun. And my website is 11coaching.com. So the number one spelled twice, coaching.com.
Wonderful. All right, then. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, Dale. Have a good day.
And you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at deladeyjones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.